Hello, Internet. Welcome back to Tromsø Twilight, the channel where I, Vincent, talk to you, the ever expanding universe, about books, movies, music I enjoy, find interesting, or a combination of the two. This week, I'm trying to touch on a few of the recommendations that people made in the comments on my video about good albums released in 2026. And a user called Too Many Voices said that their favourite album was My Ghosts Go Ghost by the duo called By Storm. Shout out to you, Too Many Voices. We're going to talk about the album. Now, I didn't even know about By Storm. By Storm are a duo that are the remaining members from the kind of abstract experimental hip hop collective or trio called Injury Reserve. And Injury Reserve were two rappers, Stepper J. Groggs and Richie with a T, and a producer, Parker Corey. Sadly, Stepper died at a very young age. I think he was 32. And this was around the time of COVID. And I was not aware, actually, that Injury Reserve's two remaining members continued to make music together. I knew that the second album was completed by them after Stepper died, but I didn't know that they'd continued to release music. So I was very interested to listen to this album that they've made, My Ghosts Go Ghost. And Injury Reserve, I haven't listened to them for quite a long time now, but what I remember from them is that they were kind of a combination of like jazz rap and really kind of quite abrasive, experimental, industrial influenced rap music. So and they were quite creative with their vocals, with like some singing and auto tune and very much different vocal approaches. But they had a very clear hip hop orientation to their music. So I was quite surprised when I listened to this album, My Ghosts Go Ghost, because although it very clearly comes from hip hop, it's very clearly a part of that culture. It's as much a kind of abstract electronic album, an experimental album. It has elements of folk music in it. It has definite psychedelic influences in it. Uh, Parts of it are wildly cacophonous, but not in a sort of aggressive, abrasive way often, more in a sort of collage fashion. So, what I'm going to do, as I often do when I talk about albums, is I'm going to go through the different tracks and I'm going to talk about what they sound like to me and what I think they might be about. I've only had time to listen to the album a couple of times since I got it recommended. Hopefully, you'll find it interesting. The first track is a very special, interesting opener. It sounds quite painful. The way that it's sung, the way that it sounds creates a very melancholy feeling, but the sentiment of the song is really interesting. So it's called Can I Have You for Myself? And it starts with this guitar loop that's sort of kind of slightly lilting. And Richie creates a vocal part, which is a sort of rhythmic poem over the top, but he's not really rapping as much as he's kind of saying the words. And it's a song about the doubts and worries he has because his partner is pregnant. And he's talking about, there were two of us and now there are going to be three of us. And what will this mean for us? And the refrain is, Can I have you to myself? And this is a thing that a lot of men experience, but that's not written or sung a lot about, is a feeling of insecurity and concern that they're going to lose their most loved person to the coming child. In a lot of ways, this song is like the opposite of that song on Watch the Throne, where Kanye and Jay-Z are imagining their children and all of the things that they're going to teach them, or in Kanye's case, kind of make them do or disallow them from doing. Imagining this like father-son relationship. This song is more pensive, it's more reflective, and it's worrying more about what becoming a trio will do to these two people's love. For most of the song, it has no beat. It's just based around this lilting loop, and it's really kind of a tearjerker, very sensitive. And then when the beat comes in at the end, it's in 6/8 time, which is unusual for rap music. And 6/8 is often a kind of really fluid time signature, but it's 6/8 played as if maybe the drums are on an MPC or something, like it's very mechanical. And then there are all these strange sounds that kind of sound like maybe tape effects, distorted synthesizers, and it really kind of builds up to something quite breathtaking. The only musical reference I could think of for this track, the end of this track, was it sounds kind of like some of the stuff off the first Cloud Dead album. The second track, Dead Weight, starts with this arpeggiated chord that repeats, and Richie's delivering his rhymes in a quite fragmented style over the first verse. There's this really hectic beat mixed in, but it's mixed kind of low, so the track doesn't seem hectic, but it gives it a real claustrophobic feeling. And it has a sung refrain. And the second verse, this deep bass comes in, and the rhyming becomes much more intense. I think the song is about a guy clinging to his identification with his father, even though his father maybe has aspects or personality traits that he sees as kind of quite damaging qualities. He doesn't want to let his identification with him go. That's kind of how I read this song. And it's like, people think that it's dead weight, these ghosts of the past, but he clings onto them as part of his identity. Some of the melodies in the song even remind me of like emo, and the whole track should sound like a completely cacophonous mess, but somehow it hangs together in a way that's difficult to explain. The third song, Grapefruit, is a very unusual song. It is based around a quite insistent beat and a piano sample, and the lyrics that Richie is delivering over the top in several very different ways seem to be about the idea that being an artist is like bearing your viscera, showing your insides, and that the insides are like the insides of a grapefruit, and that they're kind of gross. And this is something quite rare thematically and emotionally in music generally, but particularly in rap, is to express sort of disgust and discomfort and awkwardness and embarrassment. And then, despite this being the kind of theme and the style of the song, he delivers one of his verses in a cadence and a style that really reminds me of Jay-Z. On the track In My Town, Richie is rapping in a way that could very easily fit over more conventional hip hop production, like a boom bap beat or a more aggressive production. But the song is largely without drums, it's without a beat. In fact, the music reminds me of Tricky at his absolutely most abstract. Uh, right up until the end when drums do come in, but they are more like a new texture. It's more like they've been added subsequently to kind of flesh out the sound or create a new element. There's some beautiful singing on this track as well. The theme of the song seems to be about being an impoverished artist on the road, trying to make ends meet, trying to make enough money from performing. And Richie keeps coming back to this phrase again and again, which is those Shell gift cards would hit hard now, which is presumably something that either he or Corey Parker said on the road. And I thought this was like an in joke, but I looked it up online, and it turns out that Live Nation in America around the post COVID period were giving people gift cards to Shell gas stations if they were playing at their venues to help them get to and from the performance place. And so this whole song is about how they're really so down on their luck financially that getting some gift cards to pay the petrol would make an enormous amount of difference to them. And this is also in the context of Richie's partner being pregnant, as is referenced in the first song. It comes back in this song. She's now 8 months pregnant, and he's just trying to make some money by going on the road. So it's a very personal track, but also sort of a critique, I guess, of the situation within the music industry. Zigzag is a track that is one of the reasons why I talked about this album having a folk and psychedelic aspect. It has this nylon string guitar part. Richie is singing in a way that really seems to reference folk and blues. It reminds me a little bit of Mike Ladd on his album Nostalgiator, which was referencing spirituals and blues music. It has a bit of a psychedelic feeling to it, even more so when a drum beat comes in, which is noticeably irregular, and there's a really weird sound going on in the right speaker or the right headphone. Richie introduces a rap flow, becomes more commanding, and the song seems to me to be about doing your best, adapting to life, zigzagging to the moon. This is a track where the sound of it is really linear and develops a lot. So the two chords remain the same, but by the end of the track, the entire rest of the arrangement has totally changed, and Richie is singing what could be a completely new song. Best Interest, which is the next track, the flow and the beats seem more conventional, but that's genuinely only because the stuff prior has been so far out. This one's got the only feature on the album, which is Billy Woods, who occupies a similar sort of sonic universe to By Storm on this record. It has a stable rhythm. It's got some scratching bow instrument, I guess, that's like maybe it's an African or a Middle Eastern instrument, which is layered right over the top of a piano sample. And I don't really know what this song is about, but I guess it's kind of about being discreet, lying low, not giving away too much information. Billy Woods' verse is very abstract and poetic, but rhythmically really excellent. Double Trio 2 is a track that changes tone. A lot of the stuff prior to this has had a real sense of pain to it, but when Double Trio 2 comes in, something about the sound of it is noticeably more triumphant. I think it's a sampled jazz orchestra, but this is jazz rap in the way that like post bop is jazz. It even has a saxophone solo on the outro that is really quite far out, like quite cacophonous post bop saxophone playing, and really really good. There's some drums that sound like they could be on a JPEG Mafia album, but they're mixed super low. And I feel like this song is hopeful. I think it's about watching something burn down so that you can build it up the way you need it to be. The next song, And I Dance, continues this metaphor. He has ash in his dreadlocks and he's dancing. The music really supports this image of a guy dancing in smoke with ash in his hair, with ash falling. He keeps repeating phrases over and over again. It has this sense of something almost ceremonial, and the sonics of the track grow. It introduces these really colorful, intense synthesizers, almost remind me of Underworld. And as it gets to the point of peak intensity, it kind of starts to fracture and fragment. The last track, GGG, Ghosts Go Ghost, mixes folk, pop, rap, mixes it all together, and it asks the question, what do you do when you lose your ghosts? What do you do when you're no longer haunted by the past? And Richie keeps saying, don't let me go. It's like he wants to move on, but he doesn't want to lose what it is that's holding on to him. It reminds me of that track earlier that I understand as being about his father. It's like he wants to move into the future, but he doesn't want to lose who he is. It's a very beautiful closing to a really sonically and thematically rich record. I really enjoyed listening to it. Thanks again for the recommendation, Too Many Voices. I hope anybody who watched this found it interesting. Go listen to the album if it sounds remotely like something you might like, and I'll see you again soon.